Good morning, Facebook family and friends. This is Ebony coming to you once again with just a thought. Happy holidays to all my Facebook family and friends. I just wanted to stop by this morning with just a thought. As I was coming into work today, I thought about self sabotage. And I said, God, why are you why am I hearing that? And I kept hearing self sabotage over and over and over again. And I just wanted to stop by and encourage someone on this morning. There are so many things that God has in store for his people. Many of us walk around full of potential, full of dreams, full of visions. We have so many wonderful ideas, and some would say a tremendous amount of intellectual property. Yet we don't do anything with it. Oftentimes, many of us are sitting on a gold mine and don't even realize it. And when I say a gold mine, what I mean by that is so many of us are have the capacity to do so many wonderful things for God, and not only just for God, but for your family, in your profession, in your business. And we often talk ourselves out of the very things that God is moving us into. And as I was thinking about sabotage, I was thinking about so many times in my life when I had a great idea and a thought, but I thought about it too long, and guess what? I did nothing with it. And then I turned around, and guess what? Somebody else came up with the idea and they were doing it and flourishing in it. And not that I want to focus on other people, but I just use that example just to say it's so important for us to be able to have the courage to step out and do those things that we desire, do those things that we love, or even do those things that we feel compelled to do. Oftentimes, that compelling is the Holy Spirit leading and guiding us. I believe that God has the ability to download amazing ideas into the hearts and the minds of his people. But he needs us to do the work and do what's necessary to carry out the vision that he's given us. And so when you think about self sabotage, you think about someone who creates these thoughts or creates these barriers or blockages in their lives so they won't move forward. Self sabotage oftentimes comes in the form of doubt and disbelief, not believing that you have the capacity to do that thing in which has been placed in you. And oftentimes we don't really understand the depth of our worth as it relates to being children of God. And so what happens is we don't walk in the authority that God has given us. And we also don't tap into the strength and the oil that God has given us to complete that particular task. So doubt and disbelief is one form of self-sabotage. Another form of self-sabotage is overthinking. Oftentimes we ruminate too long. We spend too much time thinking about the why, the how, the what, the when, and we overprocess it, we overanalyze it, and then next thing you know, we're exhausted and then don't feel like doing it. And, I know someone listening might say, yeah, that's me. I just process it too much, too long, and then I don't do it. And I want you to think about how important it is to plan and prepare, and how important it is to write things down. But you don't want to spend too much time, because what'll happen is you'll fall back into doubt. You'll fall back into disbelief. Think about those times when you were ruminating on something and then one day you woke up and you said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it next week. Or I'm going to do it January the 1st. And then January the 1st comes and you don't do it. So oftentimes what happens with that is that we stew in it too long and we don't move. And it causes us to kind of lose that fervor or lose that fire. As long as we wait, we lose it. We lose the zeal or the zest that we have for that particular thing. Another way that we self-sabotage is we compare ourselves to other people. Listen, you are unique. You are an individual. Maybe someone else is doing the same thing that you want to do, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a uniqueness about you that would make that product or that service or that idea or that plan or that book very much different. And so I want you to really tap in to the potential, tap into the ideas, the creativity that God has placed in you, and move forward in those areas. Another way that we oftentimes self-sabotage is that we procrastinate. We put things off that we can do today. We put them off until tomorrow. And as I said a few minutes ago, the longer you wait on it, the longer, the quicker you lose the zest and the fervor for that thing. When you talk about self-sabotage, another thing that we oftentimes do is we don't feel like we are good enough or qualified enough. We don't trust the God in us to pull us through and to pour in us what we need to complete that task. When you talk about self-sabotage, another thing we do is we operate in fear. We don't tap into the strength that God has placed in us to do that. And we seek to operate on our own strength and on our own ability, which is where the fear really seeps in, because the idea is oftentimes we're relying on our own selves, our own intellect, our own ideas, not tapping into the God-given ideas and purpose that He has for us. So when we're fearful because we're thinking that we're doing it alone and that God is not with us. So fear is one of the biggest ways that we self-sabotage, because we look at a situation and we say, I can't do that. Someone's better than me. I'm not going to be able to pull it off. I'm not going to be able to make it inviting so that other people would want to buy it or so that other people would want to see it. But again, when we're in fear, we're thinking about I. But what we're not tapping into is the fire and the capacity that God has equipped us with to complete that very task. Here's what I believe. If you're thinking it, if it's something that you have created, if it's something good, something, that you feel you've had all of your life, chances are God put that in there for you for His purpose. And so if God put it in you for His purpose, then that means that you have the capacity to carry it out because He put it in you. And if He put it in you, He's not just going to give you something and not be willing to carry you through it and walk you through it. But the idea is we have to first tap into it, and then we have to move. We have to give ourselves the space to carry out that assignment and that task that God has given us to do. When we think about self-sabotage, what you're saying is, I am stopping myself from prospering. I'm hindering myself from moving forward. I'm creating barriers and blockages and creating, space for me not to move. So I want you to really think about this. I want you to ask yourself, am I self-sabotaging? And then I want you to begin to move those obstacles that you have created in your life so that you can prosper and do the things that God has called you to do. Have an amazing day.